welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are really excited today because we are here to talk about some mysteries. It's a lot of fun. We're here to talk about both of the mysteries in April, the Curious Caterer foiled plans and the One Bad Apple, Hannah Swenson mystery. And I am film critic Grace Wagner, and today it's very exciting. I have Sidney with me here from Merry Movie Club. Welcome to the podcast, Sidney.
Hi, thank you so much, Rachel. I am so honored. It's my first ever podcast, so I'm excited to meet you, talk all things Hallmark, great couple mysteries to discuss, lots to unpack.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do on your Instagram account and what the Merry Movie Club is and kind of your history with Hallmark.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I have always been a huge Hallmark girl. I grew up watching Hallmark movies with my mom, and I'm 29. And so when I tell people that I love Hallmark, they're always like, is Hallmark still around? Like my grandma watches Hallmark. So I'm on a mission to make people realize how great Hallmark movies are, how much they've improved over the years. And I've always just loved chatting all things Hallmark and just like girly, happy, fun movies with my friends. And so a few months ago, I just decided to start an Instagram page for fun. I didn't even know there were other Hallmark pages out there and podcasts. So opened my eyes to this whole fun community. It's been so fun to be a part of it. So my page, Merry Movie Club, I basically just watch and review Hallmark movies. A couple, like I'll sprinkle in Netflix and Amazon Prime movies as well, but definitely mostly like rom-coms, happy, girly movies. And yeah, it's just so fun to chat with the community about them. I try to review them all. And honestly, I like love most of them. I feel like it's pretty rare where I like don't love one of the movies. So just try to give my honest opinions. Yeah, that's my page.
Did you have a favorite from this last Christmas season? That was your favorite?
Oh, I feel like A Biltmore Christmas, but I feel like everyone loved A Biltmore Christmas. That's been a rewatch for me. I've already watched it probably 5 times. I loved Round and Round, which was the Hanukkah movie. I thought that was just like so fun and funny.
Yeah, it was good.
So those were my top 2 from the last Countdown to Christmas.
I mean, that one was so surprising to me because they had so many movie references that I was like, do Hallmark viewers even know what Rocky Horror is? Like this, things like that. I was like, what? Wow.
I know. I felt the same way. And I thought they did a really good job with kind of like the Groundhog Day, like, kind of storyline where they're living the same day over and over. Because that's a hard storyline to pull off in like a 80 or 90-minute movie, and I thought that they did such a phenomenal job. So yeah,
because it can be boring because it's like, okay, we're seeing the same thing over and over again. Like,
yes, exactly.
But it was really
those
cute.
movies are a little exhausting by the end, but I thought they did an incredible job, and it was funny. I was like laughing out loud throughout most of the movies. So those were my 2 favorites. What were yours?
It's a good favorite. It's a good favorite. Oh my gosh. I really loved Rescuing Christmas. That was on the app. I don't know if you guys see that one.
Yes, I loved that one. That was in my top 10. Yeah.
It was so good. I loved the elves, the 2 elves. And they're getting like so frustrated. They were so funny. And I don't know, that one was special. That one I know there's another one, but my mind has gone blank. But
there was what, like 40 something. So
there were a lot of good ones. It was a good season overall. It was a good season. Yeah. So we are talking about these 2 mysteries, and where are you on the mystery front? Are you a fan of these cozy mysteries?
I am new to the mystery world. I'm like dipping my toes in right now. Most people told me to start with Mystery 101, so I just binge watched the whole series.
Yes.
So I'm like,
did you stop before the end of the last one? That's what you should have done.
I should have. I watched the cliffhanger.
It's so stupid.
I know. I didn't know it was coming. And I'm like 3 years later, people are still recovering. And I feel like I'm new to the party of being just distraught over this cliffhanger.
Like, if they just ended it literally 60 seconds sooner, it would have been fine. It would have been okay.
Like 1 minute. Yes.
it was so stupid. Like, you do not do that unless you are 100%
Mhm.
sure it's booked. It's, we've got the
Like
space,
it's
it's
filmed.
coming.
It's already filmed.
Yeah, it's already filmed. Like, you just don't do it. You don't do it. It was so stupid. So yeah,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
that's a painful recovery. So
Yeah.
yeah, dipping my toes in mystery world. I've now watched the Curious Caterer series, Mystery 101. I'm currently binge watching the Signed, Sealed, Delivered
Uh,
series. I don't know if
it's
that's
so
like
good.
considered
So
Hallmark
good.
mystery, but that's a
It's
great.
I mean, it's technically on, it was on Movies and Mysteries. I don't know if these new ones will be on Movies and Mysteries or on the regular channel that are doing. Uh, but I mean, I think it's outstanding.
It's great. I'm
Yeah,
loving
they're
it. I
great.
have three more to go in the
Uh,
series, so I'm really close.
the Christmas movie, I think, is the best thing that Hallmark's ever made.
The Christmas.
The Postables for Christmas one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's so
Amazing. I
good.
watched that one last week. I'm probably
Oh,
gonna
you did?
rewatch it this week,
Yeah.
honestly.
That's so good. Yeah. I in general, I'm like, I'm mixed, I guess, on the mysteries. Sometimes they can be just a little boring for me. But I did really like the garage sale mysteries. So I was
Ooh.
bummed when those got the axe
Oh
following
no.
Lori Loughlin's scandal. But
Oh,
they were well done.
okay.
Probably still my favorite franchise of any of the franchises that have
Okay.
been. The royalty gardens were decent. I like Mary Lou Henner so much. She
Yeah.
was the mom in those.
Okay.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
So this is kind of interesting. Part of the reason why I asked you on was because we had this One Bad Apple movie coming out, and I frankly, to all the listeners, I couldn't find anybody to cover it. Nobody wanted to. Everybody was so mad about what happened with Mike and this new guy that nobody wanted to cover it. And so I was like, well, maybe we just shouldn't cover it. No big deal. Who cares? Because I have never seen Murder She Baked. Because what happened is that the first run of them ended in 2017. That's when we started the podcast. And I actually didn't even want to cover the mysteries when my friend and I first started the podcast. But they were like, oh, other people wanted to do it. So I was like, sure, whatever. I'm a team player. And and I've had fun. I've had fun with them. But there was no need to go back because they'd ended 2017. And then these new ones started and other people were fine covering them. And I was like, I don't want to go back and watch 13 movies or however many there are. There's a lot.
Yes.
And so you all just go cover them. I won't worry about them. So I just have never seen
Yeah.
one of them. But then when you said on Instagram that you had never seen any of them, I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, this could be interesting, right? To like have two people who've never seen any of them
Mhm.
watch this one and see what we think. It'd be kind of
Agreed.
a unique perspective.
Yeah, just fresh perspective on
Yeah.
like because it seems like they're like starting a new chapter
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
series. So yeah, we don't know like what we're missing, I guess, from the old one.
Exactly. So that's the backstory. If people are like, why did they have two people who've never seen any of these series covering this movie? There you go. That's the answer. Sometimes as a podcaster, you work with what you got.
Yep. We have no bitter feelings towards like
No,
Mike's scenario because we don't really know what it
we
is.
have no idea. We have no idea. And I can understand because sometimes Hallmark can be kind of frustrating at how it deals with its fans. You know,
Yeah.
it's like they don't even put out an official statement that shows are canceled. They don't actually like give endings to series. They string people along for years. And I mean, the Postables are lucky that they're actually getting these 2 movies, which I am kind of surprised because
Yeah.
they've literally ended the show twice, basically. You'll see in these last 2 movies, there's literally toasts at the end of both of them. And I'm like, okay. But so we're
Keep
getting
going
2
back.
more.
It's like
And
American Idol.
yeah, it really
Coming
is.
back.
Um, and they could just do a better job about managing and honoring fans. I think
Yeah.
the Hardys for sure they just manipulate them like crazy,
Yeah.
and that's frustrating. And so you know that's just the situation. But yeah, we'll see if they can manage to come up with something decent to at least us the newbies.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the newbies.
New
So
chapter.
here we go. It's One Bad Apple, a Hannah Swenson mystery. And this is Hannah Swenson has been asked to teach a baking class at the college in town, but her equipment is tampered with, causing an explosion that the fire department rules an accident. Soon, a colleague ends up dead, and Hannah begins to put together the puzzle of the mysterious circumstances surrounding the murder. So, I really give away a lot in that summary.
Spoiler alert.
Seen the movie. But I mean, overall, what did you think about this one?
Overall, I think I rated it like a 3.5 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5. I thought that the mystery part of it, which I'm sure we'll cover, was predictable. I feel like pretty early on in the movie, I figured out who done it and kind of where they were going with the story. I did like the characters, particularly Barbara Niven, her character as the mom, Norman's character. I know that he's, at least from what I've like tried to understand, he's been a character from the beginning in the series. Really liked him. I thought that there was a couple really funny, like humorous moments, which was fun, like laugh out loud with Norman and with kind of like the love triangle that was happening. So not a ton of chemistry in the movie, which again, I'm sure we'll end up covering. Just because I think they were like segueing from the old character of Mike to now bringing in Victor Webster. His name was Chad in the show. So I didn't feel a ton of chemistry. He definitely needs to like warm up a little bit, but I think it can. I think it'll get there, but it's going to take some time. It's definitely a slow burn in this movie.
I mean, I don't know what the past is, but it seems like why did they even need to bring in another person? Why not just have her be with Norman?
I felt that way for sure. That's exactly how I felt. I thought Norman was amazing, and he's like so charming. He obviously seems to be in love with her.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why are we bringing in Victor Webster when it seems like she has this great connection with Norman? I also was like, I don't know if you felt this way, but I was like, is Victor going to be the love interest for the mom or like for her? Like, a little confusing with like what they were doing with his character.
Well, see, that is interesting too, because I read from some of the reviews and stuff online that someone said, I found it odd that Hannah's mom was all of a sudden a sleuther when for most of the series, she's the one character against Hannah's sleuthing. So that I guess maybe they might be trying to change her character or something going on. So it could be basically a reboot.
Yeah,
situation.
For her character.
It sounds like for a lot of characters. It sounds like, and even at the end when they were all like teasing her, they were like, "You're hopeless." Like,
yeah,
everybody's like, "You should be with Norman. What's wrong with you?"
I know. I was like, it feels like Norman's the guy, and everyone loves Norman, and he loves her. She seems to really care about him. I don't know if they're just trying to friend zone him or if they are going to create a love triangle again with him. But for me, all roads pointed to Norman. I was like,
it's like, don't friend zone him.
I know.
Yeah, so just go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Gabriel Hogan. He plays Peter on Heartland.
Okay.
Yeah, and he sometimes he's there's 2 sisters on Heartland, one Amy and one Lou, and he's the husband of Lou.
Okay.
Yeah, so
he's like a pretty main character, right?
Yeah, it depends on different
According to
seasons. He's been
yeah.
more or less because they've had a somewhat rocky relationship. And there was a time when he was on like another show. And so they had him like get a job in Vancouver. It's a long Heartland is a
Okay.
whole nother situation.
I'll add that one to my list too.
It's a great, I mean, it's a great show, but it's also and they're in their 17th season now.
Oh wow.
They're filming
Okay.
their 18th. So
So I have a lot of catching. Maybe, yeah, that would be a lot of catching up to do.
it's
Maybe
a
I'll
lot.
skip that one.
I mean, you can really start. It's not like you don't need that much of the backstories. You could just start anytime.
Okay.
But yeah, because I'd actually even interviewed Amber Marshall, who's the lead in Heartland, and before I'd even seen an episode of the show because she was doing a movie or something, and and I thought about covering Heartland many times, but then during the pandemic, I was talking to Michelle, who's our co-host in Scotland, and we were like, well, we could cover Heartland, and so we started. It took us over 2 years to finish
Because there's just so much content.
there's
Yeah.
just so much. Yeah.
17 seasons is a lot to
It's
unpack.
a lot. Yeah. But so fun. I as Michelle, I said, you didn't know you were getting into a lifelong commitment.
Yep, that's a big commitment.
But what I like to do when we talk about when we talk about the mysteries, is I talk about I talk about the red herrings. Of course, there's the murderer, the murdered, and what I call family fun.
Okay.
And that comes from Garage Sale Mysteries, because in that one she was married and had a family, and so like all the extra stuff was family fun.
Yeah.
And in this one we had quite a bit of family fun, which is just like family fun is just like the extra stuff to add kind of flavor, if there's romance or just whatever extra. And in this one, of course, she got all the shenanigans with her mom.
Yep.
Yeah, which is hilarious. I love Barbara Niven. She's so good.
Me too. She's magic. Yeah, I love her.
She was
the
really
whole detective bit was so funny. She's like following Hannah, and Hannah like, Mom, I know it's you. Please stop.
Yeah. She's just like looking around wherever she sits down to dinner. Oh, there's my mother.
There she is. Her little sleuther hat. It was a cute bit that they did with that.
Yeah. And you got to hand it to Barbara Niven because she's 71.
Yeah.
She does not look 71.
Yeah, I would love to be her when I grow up. She is kicking it.
Yeah, she really does. And she looks like natural too, to me at least. She looks she just looks like a great 71. It's very impressive.
She does. She's like effortless, easy breezy, funny. I love her. She's so great.
And we've had her on the podcast at least twice. Y'all should check out the interviews, because when you talk to Barbara Niven, you like leave a better person. You want to be taking notes. It's like Nikki DeLoach. You want to be like,
yes, she's an angel.
You want to have your diary ready, taking notes.
Oh, I love that.
He's so sweet and so insightful, and just great.
Yeah.
And so it starts out. Yeah, she's teaching this class, and it was a fun intro, I have to say. The with the candy apple and the splatter of the thing and the just everything. Obviously to look like blood.
Yeah, I thought it was a cute, very like attention grabbing intro. One part she had like I don't know if this was in the intro or right in the beginning, there was like a knife in the apple in her car, like rolling around.
Oh yeah.
And then they never addressed it. And I was like, is no one concerned about like the giant knife in the apple rolling around in her car?
Yeah. Yeah,
so that was the only piece I was like, are we going to talk about this? Or?
But I would be nervous about hiring Hannah Swenson to do anything with how many murders there really are.
I know. She's involved in a lot of crime.
Yeah. But she is asked nonetheless. They're making apple turnovers and candied apples. It looks like it's just like an apple fiesta.
Yeah.
In this class. And there's this guy, Bradford, and he's kind of like asking her on a date at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the love interest. I didn't because I hadn't seen the previous series. I didn't know if he was like a recurring character or if he was new, but I'm assuming he was just new.
I think he's new.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of wanted the same thing. and I was a little confused. But yeah, she notices Barbara, her mom, taking photos of her. What are you doing? Why are you here?
I know. And
Yeah.
at first she didn't know it was her mom, but she didn't seem that creeped out by it. And I was like, I'm kind of creeped out for Hannah. And
Yeah.
then like quickly she realized it was her mom and it was a funny moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did a great job with that whole like
Mhm.
side story, I thought.
So then Norman is there, and he says that her mom had arranged for them to have dinner tonight. So got a busybody matchmaker on her hands,
Yes, which I love.
which I always love. It's my favorite.
I love it.
um, and he says, sorry about Mike moving to Quantico. So that was like our little thing. He's going to be in the FBI, and
Mhm.
Allison did a good job in that scene. Of you felt the emotion. She was, I think, acting well.
Yeah, I thought so too. And it felt like they left the door like cracked open for him to like maybe still be in the picture. I'm assuming he won't be, but it felt like they gave like good closure with still leaving a little room for like maybe he will come back or maybe he will still
Yeah,
be in the picture. Because from my understanding, I thought he was like gone and he probably is, but I don't know. It felt like they left it like a little bit open.
yeah. Well, that's very, very, very Hallmarky. Unless you're on When Calls the Heart, and then they kill you.
And then you're dead. So
You're dead.
Mike's not dead for now, but maybe he will be.
I mean, it was technically off screen, so
Yeah.
you never know, I guess. But
You never know.
yeah, uh, those poor Hardys. The Hardys have my sympathy. It's been
Yeah.
rough.
I've never
Yeah,
seen that series, but I've heard it's like a cult following and they get
yeah,
very emotionally invested, which
yeah,
I know the feeling for other
yeah.
shows. So
Definitely. So then I think Andrea, I think that's her sister, plays
yes.
like Lisa Drew, who's also delightful. Love
Yes,
her.
she was great. Did she have two sisters?
So there's Michelle. I was a little bit unclear about who Michelle was.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think that
that's
Andrea, I like
also.
tried to look back at like the cast from the previous movies. I think Andrea, I'm like, hopefully I don't get this wrong. I think Andrea is her recurring character, her sister, and I think the other one is like new or maybe has only been
Yeah,
in a couple, but I was unclear on that piece.
yeah. It was unclear. So let us know in the comments.
Yeah, can you let us know?
Clarify.
We're like totally butchering this. They're like, no, it's her cousin or something.
So then we have Victor Webster, is the new prosecutor.
Mhm.
New prosecutor, and she's testifying in a case, and he's like, you can't allow your gut feelings, or it just has to be the facts.
Mhm.
So yeah, which is very true.
Yeah, and I think that I liked that he wasn't a detective. I feel like in other movies or series, they typically like kind of pair up with the detective in town.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I think he was like the DA or yeah, an attorney or something. So he was like involved, but also like, hey, the police department needs to do their job, like loop me
Mhm.
in when you need to. So I thought that was an interesting
Yeah.
twist. I was expecting him to be like the new detective in town.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting though, because there was at least 3 times where he was like, that's not my job. I can't do anything.
Yes. Yes.
That's not my job. So it kind of hamstringed him a little bit in
Uh-huh.
like what he could do in the plot, because he
True.
doesn't get,
Yeah.
how many
That's
times
very
did he
true.
say, I get that, we don't get that till after, we don't get that till later, we don't have any help. I can't.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they over rotated a little bit on that piece
Mhm.
of where like I'm not the detective, like still involved in the case.
Mhm.
Yeah, they definitely did bring that up quite a few times.
Yeah. But yeah, she's testifying, and then we have this explosion in the
Yeah.
class,
Yeah.
the gas burner.
Yes. With all the children, all the
Yeah.
students.
And so what was the murder, once we find out, what was his motivation? He was just trying to scare off Professor Bradford?
Yes, that part was also unclear. I did not understand the explosion because can I give this like a spoiler
Yeah,
too?
yeah, yeah. This is a
Okay,
spoiler.
so because his sister was in the class, so she could have been like wasn't she like pretty injured from the explosion?
Yeah, there's a lot of residual,
Yes.
smoke and fumes, and she said that that Perry wanted to scare Bradford with the explosion.
Yes.
And then Bradford turned it around on Perry and threatened to get him expelled from school, which, like, I don't think it would even, like, if you were shown to have caused an explosion, like, it's not a threat, like, you're gone
I
especially
would think
these
so. I
days.
mean,
Yeah.
someone could have died
Yeah.
or like been severely injured. And his
Yeah.
sister was in the class and got like pretty injured and like
Yeah.
kind of shaken up. And so that part was confusing to me because I was like, why would he do that in such close,
Mm-hmm.
like an explosion in such close proximity of his
Yeah.
beloved sister? So that part was a little confusing.
Yeah, it was a little confusing. And the whole motivation, I agree with you that the killer was predictable. I thought this was serviceable. It wasn't great, but it was serviceable. But I felt like his motivation was really weak. Like, is he really going to kill somebody because of like a grade? Like, because of
Mm-hmm.
and because he was, so like, basically his sister Willa has been like flirty texting with this professor,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, he's kind of leading her on a little bit, but it's not like there'd been anything like truly violent. I don't know, I just did not buy that this guy would kill this Bradford guy.
I agree. It's
Yeah.
like such an extreme measure. Like it went real dark, real fast with like
Yeah.
not enough motive or like believable motivation.
I mean, you're supposed to believe that because Bradford is now going to get him kicked out of school, get him expelled, that then that's the thing that finally gets him to stick a knife in his back. And I'm just like, no way. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess he could be a psychopath.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always that
Which is
potential.
probably what it is. I don't know. That part, like the whole mystery piece was just didn't feel like fully buttoned up to me on like the motivation and like
Yeah.
predictability of it and kind of like the first explosion and then the murder and like that whole piece was just a
Yeah.
little complicated, like a little.
And this was actually written by Alison Sweeney, we should say.
Oh yeah, I did
Which is
hear
kind of
that, which
fun.
is super cool.
Yeah.
Has she
And
written all of them, or was this the first that she wrote?
I don't know if it's
Okay.
I guess we could see on IMDb. Let me check. Only has one writing credit. This is her first
Oh,
writing anything
that's
at all.
exciting. That's
So way to
awesome.
go.
Okay.
But but yeah, so she could, if she writes a second one, she could just work on that character motivation just a little bit, like make it a
Agreed.
little more believable.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes, a little more buttoned up, a little more believable.
Mm-hmm. So a couple other red herrings that they throw out there. They they claim that Hannah is a suspect, which of course is ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you have this Tim Pearson, that he had like this hurt reputation and they didn't get along, him and Bradford.
Is
There's
that
like
the TA? His like assistant or something?
yeah.
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 Okay.
And then you have Stacy, his ex-wife.
Yep.
So they find this custom-made greeting card at the murder scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so Hannah's trying to find out where the greeting card came from. And his ex-wife, Stacy, sells these same greeting cards. And so she thinks, oh, it might be Stacy, but Stacy's like in a whole nother different relationship. So that's unlikely. But
yeah, and the greeting card thing they really focused on. I feel like they brought it
yeah.
up quite a few times, and I was like, "Is this like a plug for Hallmark cards?" Like,
oh, that's true. I didn't even think of
where
that.
are we going with this? The card thing felt a little random. She was like looking for a card with an apple on it, right? It had an apple on
Yeah.
it, like part of
Yeah.
the.
Well, and they thought that it might be Stacy because she's the one who benefited from the life insurance.
Yes. Okay.
Too.
Yes. I
Bradford
forgot
life
about that
insurance
part.
because they
Yes.
hadn't changed it from when they were married.
Yes. So she would have gotten like $1 million or whatever it was.
And she was just kind of like, I have a thriving business. There's no like economic necessity for me to kill my ex-husband.
Right.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Besides the money, I mean,
yeah.
who doesn't want that? But okay.
They also I don't know if it was like a couple blocks, they find a bloody glove. That they find a man's DNA on the bloody glove. So that eliminates Hannah, of course.
Yes.
And so they think that and it, I guess, eliminates Stacy, the male DNA found on the glove.
Yes. And then like the killer mentioned that, right? That was like the tell at the end when Hannah figured out that it was her and her brother, because they basically said the clue and they were like, well, how else would they have known that? And so that's when they started piecing together like, oh wait, it was them. I think they were like in their dorm room, and that's when the whole like end scene chase happens. If I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a second to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new book from Harpeth Road Publishing and best-selling author Nancy Nagel, The Law of Attraction. Whitney Winters and her sister-in-law Karina are thrust into the limelight when it's the national news that a number of their former clients have fallen in love after their respective divorces. To keep their jobs, Whitney and Karina must juggle their newfound fame and their clients' misadventures in love while attempting to preserve the law firm's reputation. But their efforts aren't without distractions. Whitney begins to fall for charming artist Matthew McMahon, her complete opposite. Meanwhile, Karina wonders if all the time she's putting into her career is shortchanging her marriage. Will the sisters-in-law get more than they can handle, especially when happily ever afters aren't really in their job descriptions? A swoony romantic jaunt that's as feel-good as your mama's apple pie. If you enjoyed the TV movies based on Nancy's books and are searching for more heartwarming romance, look no further. You can pick up The Law of Attraction today wherever you purchase your books, or use the affiliate link below, or go to harpethroad.com. That's harpethroad.com.
There was also a really suspect scene where Barbara Niven is getting the fingerprint from off of the car.
Yes.
I was like, that is not admissible in court.
I know. That's true. With like her like makeup powder or something. It's a very Barbara moment. It felt very on brand for her.
Yeah. So you see this Willa kind of coming in and out. We get to know a little bit more about this relationship. She was in love with the professor. And the reason why they think that Hannah that she's a brief suspect is because it was her knife from the cooking class that was used. But that seems like pretty weak. Well, like if there's no fingerprints, if there's no hair, if there's no like just the fact that it's her knife in a school,
right? Anyone
is pretty.
She has students coming in and out all day. Yeah.
So we also have more illegal sleuthing when they create the distraction so that they can get the transcripts, the school transcripts.
Yes. A lot of moments that were just a little outlandish. I'm like, I don't think that would happen in real life. I don't think you'd be able to sneak behind an admissions computer and no one notices. But that's okay. That's okay. You just have to roll with it sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of illegal sleuthing going on.
Yeah, a lot of illegal things happening to find this killer.
Yes. So then, this Tim Pearsons, he says, I'm not going to answer any questions without my lawyer. The fundamental right to an attorney, Sixth Amendment. I'm like, thank you, Victor Webster.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, we know.
And so then you have this guy Tim, he's asked to submit DNA, and so because they have the transcripts, she's like suspect of this Willa and Perry. She goes down there, and this Willa brings out a gun with Norman there.
That scene was crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. I did not expect, I really did not
Two
expect
on one.
that.
She's just like,
I know, that was crazy. And then they're
yeah.
like in, you'll probably get there, but they're like in the dorm room and then they decide to like go outside. Like, I'm like, how did they get from point A to point B? And like, no one's
Yeah.
seeing this
Yeah.
unfold. And then they're in like the
Yeah. I
cemetery.
guess she just like holds them up going all the way down. Like, do they go in an elevator or what?
I know. I'm like,
No one sees them.
saw them like at a
Yeah.
college for what? Probably a 10-minute walk to the cemetery.
But I loved the fact that Hannah leaves the paper trail of cupcake wrappers.
Yeah.
And that the I forget the name of that officer, but he immediately like, oh, this is a trail.
Yes. Oh, that must
Like,
be Hannah. She's
yeah,
got
she
her
like
cupcake
Hansel and
liners.
Gretel's it, all the way to
I know.
which is really funny.
Yeah, they picked up on that quick. There was not enough hustle though. Like when they saw the cupcake liners
Yeah.
and then they like heard a gunshot at like partway through them like following the cupcake liners, they're still just kind of like standing there talking about it. I'm like, hustle. Like they're getting murdered. You need to run. They were taking so long.
Yeah, they've already killed somebody. I mean,
Yes.
the bodies are piling up at this
Yes,
point.
like where is the hustle? And they're like walking along in their little trench coat, like following the cupcake liners, and then they hear a gunshot and they're like still standing there. I'm like, go.
And so then Willa says that she was just trying to help her brother. And I says, I love Bradford.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They're a little scared
and
what's happening.
And then Perry takes the gun from his sister
Yes.
and holds Norman up, poor Norman. And that's when they come and tackle him.
They finally got there.
Yeah. And that basically, and then there's this whole, and they could work on this with the writing. There's this whole scene where because a lot of times in these movies you have the scene where the villain, the murderer, starts monologuing. Oh, I thought that you wouldn't want me to have the life insurance or whatever, and they're going on and on. But in this one, they, because they had so many things that didn't make sense or weren't clear, they have this whole long scene where Hannah and her sisters and mom are sitting there talking around the kitchen island, being like, well, Perry and wanted to scare Bradford with the explosion, and there were these steamy texts between Bradford and Willa, and
the recap. Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been nice to have actually like built those clues through the course of the story.
Yes. Yeah. Versus the like end scene dinner recap, and you're like, oh, okay. I guess those puzzle pieces fit.
And Norman's like trying to like ask her on a date and trying to like whatever, he's being cute, and that's when they're like, you're hopeless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems like they're all Team Norman as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which at this point,
I mean, they're like
left?
a little excited about the Victor thing, but
right.
Yeah, Team Norman.
Well, and I was confused too, because at a certain point she's like, boy, that attorney is so annoying. I'm like, what has he done besides explain the Sixth Amendment? Like, I don't really understand.
I know he really only had like a few lines in the whole movie, and he was like, he didn't like her pastries.
Yeah.
So she's gonna have to figure out a different way to his heart, and then he was
that's it. That's what it was, because he doesn't have a sweet tooth.
Yes,
that's very suspect.
Yes, yeah. She was like, okay, I'm gonna have to find a different way to,
just in general on Hallmark. I think in general, not even a sweet tooth, you might as well be the murderer. I think.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Not
relatable, cookies. Victor. That is not relatable.
No, absolutely not. I loved. There was a comment online where it said, "At this point, Hannah is single-handedly keeping this tiny town safe from." Sorry. At this point, Hannah is single-handedly keeping this tiny town safe from the hordes of murderers who start killing every month.
Seriously. I do not want to live in that town. I mean, they have a murder every month.
Yeah. The crime per capita in this town has to be insane. With Hannah Swenson, I'll follow you anywhere.
It's so true.
True. I mean, that's the thing about like the Crossroads one that made it pretty good. It was that it was set in New York. So it was like, I think, so it was like a little more unbelievable.
Yeah, this is like a small town with a really disturbing amount
Yeah.
of murder.
It's like what I always say when I talk to people about like the Batman movies. I'm like, why does anyone live in Gotham? I have no
Yeah.
idea. There has to be somewhere else you could move where
Yeah,
there
it's a
isn't like
rough
rampant
place.
crime.
That's a rough place to live.
Yeah, I would want to live there. I'd way rather live in Metropolis than live in
Yeah,
Gotham.
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Because at least like the villains in Metropolis are just like greedy landowners. They're not like maniacal maniacs,
Yeah.
you know.
You know,
Like
choose.
I'd way rather have Lex Luthor than Joker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. You know, you gotta choose your best of two bad options.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Okay. So yeah, I would give this one, having no knowledge of the series at all, I'd give it like a 3 out of 5 crowns.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I feel like a 4 out of 5 feels a little generous just
Yeah.
because like the things we talked about, the mystery, I think can use some improvements in the next movie.
Mhm.
But I am excited. Like I left watching the movie feeling like, okay, yeah, like I could get into this series. I'm curious to see what they do with character development for Victor, for
Mhm.
Norman, for the love
Yeah.
triangle, hopefully that they do. Curious to see if they ever bring Mike back, assuming they won't. But I left it being like, it wasn't my favorite, but I am going to watch more
Yeah.
of them. I don't think I'll go backwards and watch the old ones, though.
No, I don't have enough
I'll
time.
be too busy with Heartland.
Right. Yes, that's a much better choice.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So then the other one that we have this month is Curious Caterer Foiled Plans. Goldie Berry's medieval feast at Hyde Castle gets interrupted by a murder. She teams up with Detective Schultz to solve the mystery before the murderer strikes again. This is director Paul Ziller, writers Diane Mott Davidson, Julie Kim, Corrine Marwood. And we have had Julie and Corrine on the podcast before. So they're delightful. And I think that this is the best one of this series. They've been pretty mixed for me because I don't know, they're just taking themselves too seriously. Like for me, with the mystery shows, you can kind of go one or two ways. You can either try to be like all gritty and dark and whatever, and 9 times out of 10, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
No. Or you can be like camp, and we know this is silly and ridiculous, and we're leaning into it. Like, for me, I think the Garage Sale Mysteries got that balance right, but I also enjoyed the Matchmaker Mysteries. They were really silly, and so that's the team that you have to decide if you're on, and I am on Team Camp. And this one was the most Team Camp.
Yes.
Of any of them.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the other ones have gotten oddly violent for a Hallmark show, I think. Like there was that one where she was strapped down to the table and they're about to inject in her. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that was like scary.
A lot.
That was really intense.
I'm like, have I switched to HBO? Like, what's going on here?
Same. I'm like, should I like look away?
Yeah. Yeah. So this, and I really think that this captured sort of a Clue, Knives Out kind of feel. Everybody in this house, everyone who's the murderer. It was classic. It was well done. It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
Yeah. So basically there's this medieval, thing, dinner that they're having and that she's catering for. And they have this guy, Alistair, who is going to make a big announcement that night. As
Mhm.
everybody knows, everyone's excited about it. But then he going to make the announcement, and he dies. And so then we have a lot of other characters. So some of the red herrings that we have is you have his father Edmund. You have Andrew Walker's Tom's.
Yeah.
You have Tom's father Edmund, who has been in prison for 25 years.
Yeah, long time.
Which is intense.
Most of Tom's life, right?
Yeah, that's a long time, because he was convicted of murdering this guy.
Yeah.
This person. And I don't remember if we had knew that in a previous episode or not.
It was briefly mentioned in one of the episodes from Tom's background, but it was like a one line. If you didn't hear it, you missed it, kind of thing.
Okay. So then there's also this guy, Charlie. So he was a red herring, Charlie.
Yep.
That he knew Edmund in the prison.
Yeah.
And had they been working together? Is it him? Then there's a guy named Klaus. And they did that he has these wet boots and they're just kind of like a little bit suspicious of him, but they didn't do a whole lot with Klaus.
Mm-hmm.
And then a guy named Sweetwater, Baron Sweetwater, who's like the other king.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And so he's a suspect. And then there's this guy, Pierre, who is this expert swords person, and they find his sword with blood on it. And so then he becomes a suspect.
There's a lot of suspects.
Yeah, there really were. And then there's also this woman, Agatha, and Agatha is having an affair.
Yes.
Yeah. And so she is suspicious.
Yes.
Was Agatha? Who was Agatha? Was she? I can't remember. Was she married to
judge? I think from back 25 years ago. I think she was the judge for Edmund's sentencing. Like when she is the judge who sentenced him to prison. And
was she married to Alistair? Who was she married to? Who was she having the affair on?
She was. I don't remember.
Kept saying, "Oh, you're having an affair."
Yes, I do not remember, but she was.
I think she might have been married to Alistair. Don't quote me on that. Sorry, commenters. Don't be upset. There's a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Yeah. So then there was this guy, Ivan, who was just kind of snooping around. He's sort of jealous. So those are all, your red herrings.
Yes.
And it started at the very beginning. You meet this guy, Gerard Track. And he's come over there. He's looking for Tom's father. He's on the hunt. Were you immediately suspicious of Gerard?
I was. He was like a U.S. Marshal or something, right?
Yeah.
I was, because it felt very random that he just showed up to this party unannounced, uninvited, no costume. But then I wasn't suspicious of him for most of the rest of the movie, which obviously I was wrong. But I thought that they did a good job with so many suspects that it really like made you second guess who you thought like did it.
Yeah. They did a pretty good job. I mean, I did kind of crossed my mind that this is a little, because you obviously know that like the first couple suspects that they bring up, they're not it.
Yeah.
Almost never.
Yeah.
And so it's usually somebody that like they briefly mention, and then like later on he's like, oh, surprise, it's me. It's like like half the time it doesn't make really any sense at all. But you kind of know in the order that people are announced.
True.
Kind of thing. Like I never really thought that Pierre was the murderer.
I
That
didn't
didn't
either.
make any sense
I
to
never
me.
thought it was Pierre. I never thought it was the girl, like what's her name? Emma.
Yeah, Emma.
I never thought it was her either. There was a couple suspects I just was like, no, but it's not them.
Yeah, because Emma and Mason, who Mason is working with Tom, kind of
Mhm.
like an intern, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, they have kind of like a meet cute
Yeah.
with this croissant.
Full
And
flirting. Yeah.
yeah, so there's our flirting. And so yeah, I never really thought that Emma was the murderer
I didn't either.
or Pierre. And then there's the butler who was just kind of crusty, and I forget what his name, but or was that Klaus? I can't
He was
remember.
Klaus, I think.
Was that Klaus? Yeah.
He was
So the
Klaus, yeah.
butler was Klaus. Okay.
I
Yeah.
never thought it was him either, but I thought maybe he was like connected somehow
Hmm.
because it was really weird how he had like the rain, like the water on his boots.
Yeah, the wet
He's been
boots.
outside, like none of his like alibi really tracked. So I thought
Hmm.
he was maybe connected, but I didn't think it was him.
Yeah. And Goldie's trying to make the announcement, but they can't find they couldn't find him, couldn't find Alistair. And he's like, and he comes in, uh and I when Alistair dies, I like the one, I don't think that's the showstopper he had in mind. That was a good line.
Yes, I know. There was some funny lines in this
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And they start to think that, oh, is it Charlie? Because not only his past, but they find one of his sequins from his outfit in the near the site. So
Yes,
that's kind of
exactly. Yeah.
the clue. So they're saying that that Alistair only had weeks to live, and that's what he was going to announce. And they're
Hmm.
like, that doesn't make any sense. If he only had weeks, why would you kill somebody that only had weeks to live?
Hmm.
And of course, then it starts to make sense once he's going to reveal the true
Hmm.
murderer,
Hmm.
that's not Edmund. But if he really knew, so are we supposed to assume that Gerard has basically been kind of manipulating, controlling Alistair all these years?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like the dirty cop behind this big cover
Mm-hmm.
up, and they've
Yeah.
all been in on it. And so Alistair, before he dies, wants to like,
Yeah.
Get
I
make.
like how they immediately set up the medieval murder board.
Yes, I
Yeah, that was
love the
really
murder
funny.
board and
Like,
like
it was
the
really good.
different like fonts and like ripped paper and burned paper, and they
Yeah.
have like the caricatures for the pictures. That was fun. That
It
was
was
like a
really
really
good.
fun
Yeah.
addition.
I love a good murder board.
Me too.
I'm a big fan.
They always need to have a murder board.
Yeah.
Goldie's always got her murder board.
I also really liked how like Mason was so sly about, he's like, do you draw pictures of your boyfriend too? Or
I'm like, you shoot your shot,
Yeah,
Mason.
that's right.
You shoot your shot, buddy. There was a lot of like, even though it's obviously a suspenseful movie, they had a lot of humor weaved into it. Even with Goldie's ex-husband, he was like the stand-in like coroner because he's a surgeon, and he's like, "Oh, don't make me like do this." And there was a lot of funny one-liners from him as well as he's like dealing with these dead bodies and like
Mhm.
doesn't want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. One part that I thought was like really funny is that they go to all the trouble to have, because they're just trying to figure out how do we involve Goldie in all this, right? Like she
Yes.
does not need to be involved in this investigation at all. But so their kind of excuse for that is that she suggests testing the blood on the sword for the hydrogen peroxide with the hydrogen peroxide to see if it's blood. It's like it's red and it's blood. Like I don't think you really need to do that test right now.
I agree. I'm like, maybe we should like go find the murderer that's in this castle with 200 people. It's for sure blood. It's on the
Yeah.
end of the sword, and he was just murdered. Yeah, that was a funny, like, I get why they did it, but it was unnecessary. I
It
don't
made
think
me
people
laugh.
had that like train of thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so they see in the camera footage, which this guy should have really turned off the security cams. That wasn't smart. But they see Edmund struggling with with the sword. So they think, oh, is he? And so we start to see when we find out what's going on with that. But that is kind of giving your clues.
Yes.
And then we have the so Tom sees his dad, and they have this kind of moment that they find out that Edmund was the secret guest, the big surprise, big special.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we hear we hear gunshot and Agatha screaming, and that was a pretty intense. Agatha through the window,
and they showed it. It was that was an intense moment.
And they immediately know that she didn't actually die from the fall. She was I guess they can see in the eyes or whatever.
That's when they made the ex-husband like look in her eyes and he's like, please don't make me do this. And then he realized like, I think
she was strangled first. I forget what they said, but yeah. And Gerard is shot, but only in the shoulder.
Which is when I kind of like knew it was him. I was like, okay, that's super suspicious.
In the shoulder. Yeah, his definitely.
Gone, and he has like just a little flesh wound. So,
so then Goldie finds the secret entrance in the kitchen, and that's where she finds Edmund. What was with that Scrabble? There was the Scrabble pieces on the thing. It said deal lost trash tag, but it was an anagram, so it was Dr. Tag Archer,
which was his like code name.
So that was Gerard's name.
Yep. That was like the code name for the cover up. So I think she just like saw it all pieced together, and then she took the pieces and spelled out Dr. Tag Archer, which was the like
Gerard track. Yeah. That pinned the evidence on Edmund, dirty cop on the books. He kills Agatha, and Alistair wanted to right wrongs, free an innocent man after 25 years.
A long time in prison for something you didn't do.
Yeah. That's a long time. And so then Gerard kills Alistair with the sword, and Edmund was scared that he'd get framed again. That's why he went after the sword. And then he said, we never said we the thing that they are able to pin down is they find the gun in the grandfather clock, and he says, well, since you got my gun in the grandfather clock, and we never said that we found you a gun in the grandfather clock.
Yes, that's how they caught him.
They caught him, and so they arrest him, and that Alistair sent the confession in yesterday anyway. So it was all.
That's right. Which I liked that they did that.
It
was like a nice tie up of a loose end. Yeah.
And then we find out that Gerard, I can't remember if we knew that Gerard was Pierre's dad. And they have this whole moment where they were like,
okay,
you were a terrible father.
Oh, yes.
I always wanted to be loved and accepted. And that was rough. Before he goes off to the clanker.
I know. I felt for him because it was like what Tom had been feeling his whole life with his dad, what he thought was a murderer. And now Track has that same feeling. And so it's kind of like they can relate over that. But it was sad to like pass that feeling from Tom to another character that we like. So
yeah, and they're like, so then our final end of the movie is, well, looks like we'll have to postpone that date that we were going to go on, but we don't have to postpone this. They get their kiss.
Yeah.
Which was funny.
I know.
Yeah. So I thought this was really fun. I just enjoyed sort of that Clue kind of, feel to it, the all in one house and all the different characters, and that they're all in these, old fashioned costumes. And so it was fun.
Yeah, I agree. The costumes, the castle, like I loved the setting. I liked that it all occurred over the course of just like one day or like one night. Because it was like that murder mystery, like you said, kind of that Clue vibe, which was really fun. I loved the setting of it. There was definitely a lot going on. You've
Yeah.
got like 10 different suspects. You have like an affair,
So
money
many.
laundering. You've got this crime from 25 years ago, dirty cops. There's just a lot going on, but I thought that they did a good job. It didn't feel like too chaotic. I did have to pause a couple times and be like, okay, wait, who is this person again? And what's their connection? And
Mhm.
what just happened? So it's definitely a movie you like have to pay attention to. I don't feel like it's like a background Hallmark movie at
Yeah, that's
all.
true. Yeah.
But I thought that they did a good job with like the character development. There was like a little romance for each of the characters. There was like each character had like a couple really good scenes. It didn't feel
Mhm.
like there was a lot of like wasted time, wasted scenes, wasted lines.
Yeah, like it was much better than like we said in the One Bad Apple where you have this kitchen island. There was no kitchen island scene in this.
Exactly.
They
Yes.
they tied everything up
Yeah, they
and pretty
did.
much, yeah.
Yeah, the
So,
ending is heavy, like what we talked
mhm.
about with Track and
Agatha.
yeah, like that whole ending was really heavy. So I'm curious to see what they do with that in the next and how they address it. But I mean, I guess I'm happy
But
for
I wish that this series would continue to lean into Team Camp and not Team Gritty.
agreed. 100%.
Just abandon that. Don't do it.
100%. Yes. I'm with
But
you
I
on
would
that.
give this one a 4.
I would agree. I think
Yeah.
4.5. This one was pretty high for me. It was definitely my favorite of the Curious Caterer movies
Yeah.
so far. And I feel
I
like
think it's the best mystery this year. I really
I
do.
agree.
I
Yeah,
do.
this was by far my favorite this year so far.
Yeah.
And they set it up, I think, for a good well, it'll be fifth movie now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Depending on how they take each of those little storylines that they just set up. But
Yeah.
I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. And there wasn't really any family fun in this one because it was all just like tied to the house and
Yep.
his, family. And there was like the closest you get would be like the kiss at the end or the little Mason Emma thing.
Yeah, Mason
That
Emma or
would
like
be.
Goldie's daughter had a little thing with
Oh
her
yeah.
friend.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely more, I would say it felt like a full mystery movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there we go. That is these 2 movies. Let us know what you think of them. We're here at on them, especially One Bad Apple. We want to hear all the Hannah Swenson people and what you want us to do in the future. Because, like I said, nobody wanted to cover it. So what do we do? Let us know. And thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast. We'll definitely have you on again. And if people want to see your reviews, things you do, how do they do it?
At Merry Movie Club on Instagram, and I have a website, merrymovieclub.com. I have cute little sweatshirts that I sell so we can all be cozy and matching while we watch our Hallmark movies. But yeah, I love to chat. I love the Hallmark community. It's so fun to like watch them all together, review them together, talk about them. I'd love to hear what we maybe got wrong on the and mysteries. I'm sure there's some pieces we missed.
Yeah.
So thank you. I was so honored that you reached out and so flattered. I appreciate it.
We'll definitely have you back for sure. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support us and help the pod. And we have lots of fun perks, including our watch-alongs. And this month we have writer Nina Wyman for the watch-along. And we're going to be watching Double Holiday. So if you're a fan of that one, you should join the Patreon. It's free for any level. And the watch-alongs are. And we also have our merch store where we have tons of fun new designs. So check that out. And thanks so much again. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.